Good afternoon, and welcome to CabWriter Comprehensive 2, Part 10. This is where we left off in Part 9. The model is completed, and we're now ready to begin the process of creating scenes so that we can make, from those scenes, we can create shop drawings. And so what I did was I took the liberty offline to add countertops to this and appliances just so that we could have some scenes to show the client. And that's not part of creating a model with CabWriter. It's just part of dressing it up so that the client will see pleasing pictures of what the finished product will look like. So I've done that, and so this is where we left off in Part 9. And if I close this model, this is where we'll pick up in Part 10. And notice I have the appliances, and I have all the countertops. And I've placed the countertops on a counters layer and the appliances on an appliances layer so that I can remove those from the picture when I need to. Alright, so we're going to start off by creating scenes. I typically like to have at least 4 perspective scenes. This one is isometric right now, or parallel projection, whatever you prefer. But I'd like to have 4 perspective scenes, typically northeast, southeast, northwest, and southwest, in whatever order. But that's where I'm going to start. Now those scenes want to be perspective, so I first of all want to arrange them. I'm going to use the camera perspective view. I don't want to see the axis or guides or section cuts or section fills. And I'll fill the screen with this. And this looks pretty good right now because I can see a lot of things in here. I suppose I could tip it a little bit, whatever you want to do, but that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to fill the screen. I'm going to use this tool right here that comes with my layers management tool, which is free from our CabWriter software website. I'm going to create this scene. I'm going to update the active style because I just changed it. And the scene name is going to be, we're looking here at, this is the north wall, this is the west wall. We're looking here, so I'm going to call this Northwest. Perspective. We probably want to try and keep the scene names as short as possible. And we say OK. So now we have a northwest scene. Now I want to create a northeast scene, which is this scene right here. And that's pretty good. I'm going to call this the northeast. Northeast perspective. So now I need a southeast and the only thing you're really going to be able to see here are these cabinets in the peninsula and maybe a little bit of the front of the, well, I could probably get more. All right, now I can see the front of the island. I can see the peninsula and these cabinets here. So I'll call this my southeast. Southeast perspective. And my southwest. And that'll probably be enough for the scene. So I'll call this the southwest perspective. All right. Now I want a scene that's going to represent my cut list. That is, all of the things I'm going to cut in the shop. And by the way, these scenes, we're not going to want the walls, so we'll take the walls out. Or the countertops. Or the appliances. I also want them in parallel projection. And let's see. Now I have to make a decision. This wants to be my cut list. It's the things I'm going to cut in my shop, not the things I'm going to purchase, but the things I'm going to cut in my shop. Well, I'm not going to do building of draw boxes, so I'm going to take the draw boxes out of here. And I'll take the upper draw boxes out as well because we have some of those. So now this will be my cut list scene. And I'll just call it cut list. The next scene I want are things I'm going to cut on the CNC. And I'll call that a DXF scene. So I'll clear everything. And for sure I want the base boxes. And the upper boxes. Question is, where am I going to cut my draw fronts and doors? Since I'm going to probably band them, I'm going to cut those on my table saw. so I won't put them in the cut list scene. This is all I'll have in the cut list scene. Or not the cut list scene, but the DXF scene. So I'll create this scene. I'll call it DXF. And now I want one more scene that's going to show the purchased parts. Well, what I'm going to purchase on this particular job is I'm going to purchase the draw boxes, both the base and the upper. So I'll create a scene called Purchased Parts. And I'm going to want a door and draw schedule. So I'll create a scene called Door and Draw Fronts. So I'll have the base doors, upper doors, upper draw fronts, and base draw fronts. I'll create that scene and call it Door and Draw Fronts. Okay, now that's enough for all of my reports, basically my production reports. But what I want to create now are all of the scenes that are going to be dimensioned. I'm going to start off by creating a scene that's a throwaway scene. That is, when I'm done with the whole project, I can just delete the scene. But I'll use it as sort of the base starting place for everything I want to do. So I'm going to bring in everything except the walls, appliances, counters, and this will be my base scene. And I can even, I'll call it the base scene. It's going to be the one that I start everything else from. Now, probably what I'm going to start off with is a base plan. So to do that, I'll get rid of all my uppers. And I'll have just my base cabinets in the plan. And I'm going to create a section. I'm not going to use these too much. I don't care what they say. I'm going to pretty much ignore them. And SketchUp only had them starting in SketchUp 2018. 17 doesn't have that capability. But I'm going to place this, and then move it up. And this is going to be my base plan. So I want to move it to some place that's going to make sense to me. And that sounds about right there. Now, what's going to happen here is I'm going to create a section cut. And that section cut is going to be hatched. So one of the things I probably want to do at this point is go to File, CabWriter, Assign Hatches. This is kind of a, an artsy kind of thing. I'm going to start off with rough lumber, which is maple. And I'm just going to assign these in order for now. I can go back and change them later. But let's say for the rough lumber maple, I'll use Adobe Rammed Earth. And in layout, I can rotate these hatches or scale them so that they look better or worse. But for now, I'll just leave that alone till we get a look at things. All right, so now in rough lumber, I don't have anything else. So now I can go to sheet goods. And I'm using MDF. So I'll use the next one in line, aluminum. And the moment I select that, these are assigned. So now I can go to the next one, which is maple plywood. And I'll use the next one in line, basket weave. Maple plywood pre-finished. Black dots 1. And shop plywood. Brick common face. All right, now I've got all my sheet goods. I'll go to the wall and I'll assign that concrete masonry unit. And now I'm done. So what I can do now is create a section from this. I've figured out where I want my section cut. So I'll go to Draw, CabWriter, Create Section from Section Plane. And it wants to know what I want to call that section. I'll just call it Base Plan. And I have 3 ways that I can create this scene. I can use everything that's in the scene. In other words, all these cabinets that are there right now. Or by selection. So I could select just 1 or 2 cabinets and include that. I'll do one of those later. Or by layer. I could choose the particular layers I want in the scene. I'm going to use the all right now. Okay, so now I have my base plan. Notice everything is sectioned and hatched. Now I may not like these hatches, but I don't want to change them here. I'll probably want to change them in layout. And once I figure out in layout which hatches I want for what, I can come back and change them in SketchUp or even create a master selection that I like to use for all projects. Okay, so I'm going to update that. All right, now I'm going to do the uppers. So I'll go back to my base scene. I'll take the bases out. So I only have the upper cabinets. And again, it's number 2 I'm working on here. I'm going to move that up. And maybe about like that. You can come back and edit these later. Create section from section plane. And I'm going to call this upper plan. Now, I don't want my bases in this scene. Just the upper cabinets. So I'll update this. Okay, let's just go back and see how we're doing here. Okay, that scene looks good. That one looks good. That looks good. That looks good. It's my Cutlass scene. My DXF scene. My purchase parts, which is the draw boxes. This is the door and draw fronts. My base. Oh, that's my base scene. That's the one I keep going back to when I want to create new scenes. My base plan. My upper plan. Let's go back to the base plan a second. Yep. Okay, I got everything there. All right, now I'm going to do elevation views, and there's 2 types of elevation views. They're just simply elevation views, and then there's elevation sections. I'll start with the elevation view. I'm not going to do every wall because this is a tutorial and I want to try and keep this to a reasonable length video. So I'm just going to do one wall, and I'll do an elevation view and a section view of the wall. And I'll go back to my base plan, or my base scene rather. And for this scene, I'm going to be looking straight on. And I probably do want the walls all right. Now the question is, do I want the island? Probably not. So what I'll do is I'll take the sectioning tool and I'll move this so that I just get the things I want. Now notice I'm going to get some sections. I'm going to move it back just a little bit because I've got a funny section right here. So I'm going to move this back just a teeny bit. And let me look at that. That looks good. So you notice I'm going to get a section of the wall. I'm going to get a section of this cabinet. And these are going to be complete. So that's probably what I want. All right, so I'll go to Draw, CabWriter, Create Section from Section Plane. And I'll call this North Elevation. And now I want a north section, so I'll do one more. Notice the section over here in this corner. Okay, I think that's a good view. Create section from section plane. And this is a section, so I'm going to call it North Section. So it's basically the same view as the north elevation, but it's sectioned. And now that can be dimensioned like this as well. Now, sometimes you want a section of just a single cabinet. So let's see if we can do that. I'm going to go back to my base scene, look at it from the top. Well, before I look at it from the top, let me see what sections I have here. I'm going to use this section right here. I'm going to reuse the first one I did for the base. And before I do that, I'm going to select this cabinet. And then with the Control key down, I'll select that section. And I'll do a Draw, CabWriter Section from Section Plane. And I'm going to use By Selection. And look what we got. We got a section of just one cabinet. Okay, so I think this is enough scenes to give you a good idea of what we're... Oh, there's one more I should create. One more I should create. The I'll go back to my base scene. And I'm going to clear everything but the base ladder. And I'm going to create another section. And I'll bring it up. Now, I want to be careful. I want it to come right to the middle of this. Okay, there we go. The reason I wanted that is I want a sectioning of these horizontal stretchers. So again, I will go to the draw, create section from section plane, and I'm going to call this base ladder section. And I'll do it by layer. And there you go. Okay. So that's it. That's all of the views I will need. Now I will do one more video, part 11. And in part 11, we'll take all of these scenes that we've created. We'll move them to layout and create a set of drawings in layout. And we'll also create our production documentation, our production reports. So that will be the final, part 11 will be the final part, and it'll complete this CabWriter Comprehensive. All right, until then, have a good day.